What's up, bio students? This is our last note section out of Chapter 9. This is a section on 9.2 called Energy and Exercise. Basically, what we're going to do is we are taking everything that you have learned up to this point, talking about cell respiration, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport, gaining, and talking about how we gain that energy out and what cycles are used for daily activities. As you can see, we have this young man right over here who is a great example of someone who utilizes energy with exercise, running long distances. So we're going to discuss kind of what Mr. Clark Gotti does on a daily basis in this video. So starting off with energy and exercise, one of the major things we do, as high school students in PE is running the mile. I always hated that. You get through that first couple 100 feet feeling great, and then your life is over. It's painful, as we start to, use up all that energy that we have saved up in our muscles. But where I want you to kind of start looking at is right here. To obtain energy, the body uses ATP from three locations. Number one, it's ATP that's already in the muscle. So we have a small storage bank, and we'll later talk about how it's glycogen, that's what form it's in, but ATP that's already in the muscle. Then we have a means of making ATP secondly through the process of lactic acid fermentation. So you've already learned what fermentation is. Lactic acid is specific to our muscles, is a pathway, and the byproduct of making that energy is lactic acid, which is essentially what makes your muscles hurt after a workout. And then third one is just the ATP that we make through our cycle of cellular respiration. So those are the three ways. We have already stored in the muscle, lactic acid fermentation, and ATP made from cell respiration. All three of these energy sources are used at the beginning of the race, but stored ATP and fermentation only supply energy for a limited time. So these first two, this right here might be gone within 10, 15, 20 seconds. The second one, fermentation, might be gone within a couple minutes. And we all know running the mile, 2-minute miles are pretty impossible. So after that, you're really diving into the processes that you've learned to generate that ATP. So what happens when your body needs a lot of energy right now? So let's say you're sprinting. We're looking at a 100-meter dash. What are we going to do? Well, glycolysis makes small amounts of ATP, and that can get stored in your muscles. So we have that quick muscle storage that we talked about. That was our number one thing that is used up first. And like I said, it's used up in a few seconds. So short little bursts, maybe you running up the stairs quickly. You drew ATP out of your muscles and used it. A quick sprint, a fast walk. Maybe you're doing 20 push-ups or 20 pull-ups or 20 sit-ups. Those are all going to be using that quick few seconds of energy. Now, when that's gone, muscle cells make ATP through our second pathway, which is lactic acid fermentation. So these are the really only two that are used when we are sprinting. So on the previous slide, I mentioned three things. ATP in the muscles, fermentation, as well as cell respiration. These first two are only used in sprinting. So it supplies about 90 seconds of ATP. So that would get you through probably about a solid 200-meter dash. If you're wondering. But lactic acid is what makes your muscles hurt. So we go through this chemical process, this pathway, using this process to make energy, and the byproduct, what's left over, is lactic acid. Now, acid burns. So when you are going through this process, lactic acid is going to build up in your muscles and feel sore, and it's kind of like a dull pain. It's not sharp, but the only way to get rid of it is actually by using extra oxygen. So when you go on that sprint, when you're done, you're panting, you're breathing hard, because your body is trying to get rid of that lactic acid and drop as much oxygen as possible. Now, that's not going to happen. It's going to take time. So over the course of the next couple days, you're going to feel sore, and that's because your body's slowly introducing oxygen back into those muscles and getting rid of it. Now, one little side note, just to kind of think of the big picture, when you think of a sprint, you are literally roasting through all that energy, and it's almost like a debt you have to pay because your body wants to replenish it. So every time you sprint, think of it as an oxygen debt that you have to repay after the race with heavy breathing, okay? As you found out in this section, oxygen is vital to really efficiently make a lot of energy. So what happens if you need to run long distances? Okay, so you are running a marathon, you're playing a whole soccer game, whatever it is, most soccer matches, you're looking at 90 minutes. Cell respiration is the only way to survive. Okay, so those first two we mentioned, fermentation as well as the ATP in muscles, that's gone. You're not really going to worry about that. So you need slow releases of energy. Okay, so long distance runners have to pace themselves. Slow releases of energy. Energy is stored in the muscles as glycogen. Glycogen is basically, a complex carbohydrate. So your grains, so your pastas, your breads, your rices, your cereals, those are all carbs. If you are in shape, you can actually utilize that glycogen a lot better. So looking at Clark Oddie, who's a long distance runner, he probably is to the point where he can do about 15 to 20 minutes of activity off of that energy in his muscles alone. And even after that, and even during that process, he's using cell respiration, okay? But he is a little bit different, all right? Most of us who aren't in shape, quote unquote, are going to be using this cell respiration to survive. But, after that, you're burning fat. So if we look at how to burn fat, you really need to focus on cardio, and you need to focus on a long amount of time. You need to burn through those energy reserves so that your body is now having to dig deeper. And our fat, which has many functions in our body, like insulation, maintaining body temperature, it also is an energy bank. So when you are going to run a marathon, a lot of people will carb load. You look at your sporting events, some people have pasta parties the night before because when you're putting those carbs into your body is going to store those, and it's going to store them as glycogen. And if you're in shape, your body's going to throw a lot more of that in your muscles, okay, to give you that extra, kind of burst of activity. But regardless of whether you're in shape or not, cell respiration is where you are going to end up pulling a lot of that energy from. So that was a quick unit. Like I said in the previous video that I do, I always like to throw some review questions in here. So I want you to take a minute. You just wrote a bunch of stuff down. Look through your notes, okay? Look through your notes. See if you can answer these questions. I will not be giving the answers to these, but again, wink, wink. These might be something I use on as part of the test for this portion. So look at these questions. Answer them if you just want to answer them out loud. I think that's healthy practice. If you want to write them down, that's even better. But pause this video, take a second, do that. Other than that, if you got questions, ask your local biology teacher. And that's it for this section. Good luck on studying for the final, and that's all I got. Yago, out.